In the early 1900s, Houston's main entertainment venue was the City Auditorium.
It was a huge barn of a building. I can remember seeing Margo Fontaine perform with the Royal Ballet of England and also going to a wrestling match. So the diversity of attractions that were there was amazing.
For a good 50 years, it was the main place where everything took place. World-famous performers, Pavlova, the Ballets Russes de Monte-Carlo, the Metropolitan Opera. It was the center of all of the cultural activity of the performing arts in Houston.
Singing legend Judy Garland performed here in 1961 to a standing room only crowd. The City Auditorium was home of both the Houston Symphony and the wrestling matches.
It was torn down in the early 60s to make way for Jones Hall.
In 1966, the Jesse H. Jones Hall for the Performing Arts opened on the site of the City Auditorium. Jesse H. Jones secured the 1928 Democratic National Convention for Houston by offering the Democratic Party $200,000 and a 25,000-seat auditorium, and Sam Houston Hall was completed by June of 1928 when Franklin D. Roosevelt nominated Al Smith for president. In 1937, Sam Houston Hall was replaced by the Sam Houston Coliseum and Music Hall, designed by Alfred C. Finn. These buildings were at the crux of Houston's cultural and entertainment life for decades. The Music Hall hosted traveling Broadway shows, while conventions, concerts, and other big events were held in the Coliseum. Every fall, the Arabia Shrine Circus was booked into the building for 2 weeks. The circus advertised itself as so big, so huge, so mammoth that only the fabulous Coliseum could hold it. Then each February, the Houston Fat Stock Show and Rodeo took over.
They would invite the kids from our center to come and see the rodeo there, so those were highlights of the year for us, for the kids to come to the rodeo at the Coliseum.
Well, I think what most of us remember about the Sam Houston Coliseum that grew up in that era was the rodeo, or the Fat Stock Show, as it was known then, before it became the Livestock Show. They did have the big stars that they brought in, and they came for the duration. Instead of having a different one every night, you'd have one star that would be there for the duration of the rodeo.
One of the all-time favorites at the rodeo was cowboy star Roy Rogers, who came to Houston with his wife, Dale Evans, his horse Trigger, and his singing group, the Sons of the Pioneers.
It was a wonderful show because he was an extremely talented person that could do so many things and very entertaining. And at the end of the show, he would get on Trigger and circle the arena, and all the kids would rush down to the front and stick their hands through so that he could brush their hands as he went by, and that was the highlight of the evening if you were a child of that era.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in Houston, the Beatles!
One of the highlights, certainly at the Coliseum, was the performance by the Beatles in 1965. They were at the height of their popularity, and it was almost a riot scene. Now the site is the Hobby Center for the Performing Arts, which replaced both the Coliseum and the Music Hall.